Say you have been in a relationship with your girlfriend for about 1.5 years. Everything else has been great: emotional connection, communication, shared values, and so on. But here is the thing: we have not had sex at all, not once. Am I being taken for a fool or being used? We have had conversations about it, and I have expressed how the lack of physical intimacy has been affecting me. She has acknowledged it, but nothing has really changed. At what point does this become too much? How long would you stay in a relationship without sex, especially when it is something you have been clear about needing? Just wondering how others would handle this, or if anyone has been in a similar situation. Story 1. This decision is entirely up to you. There will never be a version of events where you can force her to have sex with you. She is not interested. That is totally fine, but you do not have to stay in a relationship with someone who is not sexually attracted to you or has serious libido issues, trauma, or any other root cause. You can try couples counseling, but from what I have seen, the best case scenario is she reluctantly agrees to have sex out of obligation, which eventually leads to resentment and does not work for the long-term health of the relationship. Sex out of obligation feels as bad for her as it does for you to feel unwanted in the bedroom. Sometimes there are core differences in a relationship with no path for both parties to compromise without some level of resentment on one or both sides. It is difficult, but that is how it goes. Story 2. You are both still pretty young. It sounds like, for whatever reason, she is not ready yet. Has she talked about a timeline at all? Does she expect marriage first? Is there something physical she is willing to do, maybe short of full intercourse? This is something that, within a healthy relationship, you should be able to talk about openly. At the end of the day, if you want a sexual relationship and she does not, you may just not be compatible. It does not mean she is wrong or a bad person. You are just not getting what you want out of the relationship. Story 3. How old are you all? What reasons is she giving for not doing it? If you have discussed it and your needs are still not being met, then just leave and find someone else. Even if you are single for a year, you are not getting any intimacy either way. Why bother with the hassle of being frustrated? Story 4. As long as she is not involved with someone else and we are exclusive, saving that for a reason, I would let it continue for about a year or two. After that, life is too short. I could have had a lot of fun in that time. Story 5. I would say the question comes down to whether she is waiting for marriage. If yes, and you are willing to wait, then wait as long as you want. If not, has she been with someone else? If she has, was it within the last 1.5 years? If she was with someone else in less than half a year, I would move on. Story 6. The word acknowledged is very overused. Everyone can acknowledge something. It is not a sign of great depth. The point is to actually do something about a situation. I can acknowledge that it is raining, but unless I use an umbrella, my acknowledgement is meaningless. She is stringing you along, and for a 20-year-old young man, now is the time to experience sex to the fullest. People who deprive themselves at this exciting age usually suppress their desires, do what seems right, and then get hit by midlife crises where they start pursuing younger women because they never had the exciting phase and they miss it. Leave this boring relationship that is not meeting your needs. She can acknowledge someone else to death. Story 7. Physical intimacy can sound scary for a lot of women, mainly because it is very painful. Maybe have a direct approach and ask. Story 8. It usually starts out with a lot of intimacy in the beginning and then it tapers off, but you are still learning. It is up to you to decide if you want to wait for her to be ready. When she is ready, it will be continuous. If she is a virgin, that is, once she experiences it, she may not want to stop. I do not think I could wait 1.5 years, but if you have already waited this long, maybe she respects that about you and will be ready to open up soon. You should talk to her as soon as possible and let her know how you feel. Story 9. My personal answers do not particularly matter here because what you have described is that you have clearly brought up your physical and emotional needs for it, and there has not been an adequate reason on her end to not participate. I am a big believer that, first, you do not have to do anything you object to on such a fundamental level, and second, you also do not have to stick around if your needs are not being met. I do not blame either of you, but it is clear it is incompatible if it continues like this. Story 10. It depends on the age of the individuals. I have dated girls for over a year without sex. We were also teenagers at the time. Once you reach adulthood, it is generally expected to have sex sooner than that, except in certain religious communities. I would probably break up with her. If abstinence is that important to her, we probably do not have compatible values. Story 11. I'm going to assume that you are very young based on the challenges in communication. Take advice from older people. If you are struggling to communicate, you need to be more blunt and open with each other. Sit down with her and seek primarily to understand. Do not leave that conversation until you feel like you have learned something. Story 12. This is like a Jerry Springer episode. Have you seen her naked original poster? Are you sure she is not just two kids in a trench coat playing a trick on you? Story 13. I'm all for not rushing into sex and taking the time to get to know each other. That being said, I believe physical intimacy is a key part of a healthy relationship. If we aren't physically intimate to at least some degree and it's not moving forward, then we aren't in a relationship, we are just dating. If there is zero physical intimacy on any level, then I will consider us friends and start dating other people. Story 14. If it is something you think you cannot go any longer without, then leave the girl. It is cruel, but it is better than cheating. Many comments ask for age and context, but it is simple. Maybe your girlfriend does not want to, and that is fine. There are people in this world who can go without it their whole lives, and there are people who cannot. Have the talk, and maybe you will realize that you have different views. Story 15. 1.5 years without any physical intimacy? Holy hell, my guy, how are you even still going? At that rate, I wouldn't even feel wanted in the slightest. I understand respecting your partner's choices, but you also have to prioritize yourself. If your needs are not being met, then that is not good. Story 16. My boyfriend and I are around similar ages to you two. Not too long ago, I was also in this situation a bit, so maybe my perspective can help. Granted, it was less than a year until my boyfriend and I had sex, but it took about 8 months. We did other things instead of actual sex. I know my boyfriend wanted to, and he told me he felt ready for it a lot earlier than I felt I was ready. He never pressured me, though. Even though it took nearly a year, he was always really patient with me. I appreciated it, and it made me love him more. Personally, I had a lot of anxiety surrounding it. Everything else we were doing felt safe to me, but for actual sex I was paranoid about things I really shouldn't have been paranoid about. It gave me a lot of unnecessary anxiety, and for some reason I didn't tell my boyfriend until later because I was embarrassed. We ended up communicating and talking about it, and finally had an honest conversation. I told him what I was anxious about, and we got over it together. We had sex not long after that. I don't feel too comfortable talking about it in the comments, but I'm fine answering any questions in a message. Since I was kind of in the place of your girlfriend, I might have good insight. A lot of commentators I see are saying she just isn't that into you and are essentially putting a timeline on sex, and I disagree. I loved my boyfriend, but while it was primarily my anxiety, it just took me a while to feel ready. Sex is put on quite a pedestal in our current day and age, so that can definitely add a bit of anxiety. Please just have a conversation with your girlfriend and be understanding. Something to add. There weren't any religious reasons why I abstained from my boyfriend for so long, as I am not religious. It was genuinely my own anxiety. Story 17. I am quite relaxed, but if I am not having sex within a month, based on the number of dates of a new relationship, I would not continue the relationship. I am happy for a woman to not want sex for any reason she chooses. However, for me, sex is an important part of a relationship, so the relationship would be missing a part that is just as important as any other. I would, of course, talk to her about the issue, but no matter her explanation, I would not continue the relationship much longer than a month. If she had a medical condition, I might carry on. However, we are weeks in, and I cannot be in love with this person yet. Why would I be in a relationship with someone who cannot be a partner to me in all the ways I need to be happy? Story 18. That is not a healthy relationship to be in at your age. The worst part is that she does not care about your feelings or needs. When you two break up, she will likely start seeing other people indiscriminately. After a year or two, she might contact you saying she is ready now, but she will not tell you about her behavior during that time. Story 19. 2 weeks. If she does not reciprocate intimacy, which is an important aspect of a relationship, why would you stay? She wants your commitment without meeting your needs. She is playing you, brother. Story 20. How old are you? If you are 16 and she is a virgin, then I understand. But if you are 25 or older, and she is not in a coma or married to Jesus, then I do not get it. I would not wait more than 2 weeks without assuming we are incompatible. Story 21. If the communication has been great, what are you asking for? This seems like a very important conversation to have. Is she asexual or just not interested in sex? Is she waiting for marriage? Is she waiting for the relationship to be serious or to feel comfortable with me? The answers to these questions would determine if it is a deal breaker. You have already waited a year and a half. Story 22. From the first date, I would give her 2 months grace. After that, if she is still saying no, then I have the option to quit and look elsewhere. People try to say sex is not important, but take it from someone in a 15-year dead bedroom, it absolutely is. If it goes on for 1.5 years, there is something seriously wrong. She may be asexual or have some issues that she needs to discuss, but she cannot string you along for so long. If you are still trying with this girl, then give her an ultimatum. She either gives you a good reason, commits to trying for the first time, or you move on. You are young and losing vital time. Do not grow old with regrets. Story 23. 2 stories that might be food for thought. Story 1. I dated a girl who had a strict Catholic upbringing and resolved to wait for marriage. She was with a guy for 7 years and even got engaged. She ended up breaking up with him, then was intimate with the next guy she dated on the first date. Story 2. A friend of mine dated a guy for 6 months but would not have sex with him, telling him the time was not right. Then she met another guy. Since she was not a cheater, she broke up with her boyfriend and started dating the new guy. She became intimate with the new guy within days. She explained that when the feeling is not there, it is not there, and when it is, it is. The moral of the stories is that a woman who wants you will not make you wait. Even if she is determined to wait for marriage, she will want to marry sooner rather than later. In your case, I would say she is just not physically attracted to you or has a very low sex drive. Story 24. Anything more than a couple of months at the beginning of a relationship and more than a couple of weeks at any other time, except for a medical issue causing a temporary stoppage. Story 25. Do you live in the Middle East? If not, this is unusual and I would leave before the second week is over. Story 26. Normal, mentally healthy people who are not fixated on sex would have sex with someone they like within a couple of dates. Anything else indicates deeper issues, usually related to religion, culture, or trauma, all of which imply incompatibility. Story 27. Unless you have had detailed conversations about waiting until a certain time or marriage, this is 100% a deal breaker. Assuming you have actually been trying to have sex with her. Story 28. If I were waiting until marriage because she is worth it, I would wait as long as it takes. The thing is, I am not going to get married again. While every relationship is different, I would estimate 2 months with no sexual activity. I would leave even if everything else was fantastic, and it never is. Story 29. She is avoidant when it comes to sex and is unwilling to change. You can try having another conversation with her about it, preferably with the help of a therapist, but she seems unwilling to change. Story 30. Am I being taken for a fool or being used? I'll just say it. It doesn't matter whether you are fooled or not. 1.5 years would have, under most circumstances, been enough to address whatever was keeping you two from being intimate, except some very serious underlying issues which would have been important to share beforehand. At what point does this become too much? Whenever you think that this is not the type of relationship you want and you can't be bothered to wait for things to change anymore. It may disappoint both of you that this is how things went, but if your needs aren't met, then you simply are a mismatch. These things happen. It is a decision one can make without any ill will toward the other. Sure, they may try to frame it otherwise, but you are your own judge. It just adds to the list of incompatibilities if they reveal that they actually don't trust you to tell the truth. Story 31. How old are you? You shouldn't really expect sex at all in high school. Between 18 and 20, waiting a long time might be okay or it might be a problem. After 20, I generally expect to be having sex after a month and would probably assume things weren't going to work out if we hadn't after 2 months. There could be an exception to that rule if she tells me explicitly ahead of time she has a rule about waiting 3 months or so, but that would be a bit of a red flag, so she'd have to be really amazing otherwise. Much longer than that, and I am just going to assume we're not compatible regardless. I'm not going to say that's right for anyone else necessarily, but that's where I would land. Story 32. Are you just talking about having sex? Or are you actively trying to romance her and get her in the mood? Story 33. After reading through the responses and your replies, my advice is this. Talk to her and ask why you have not been sexually intimate. If the answer is something you can accept, then stay with her. If it is not, then do not. You are still very young, and dating that long without physical intimacy is a poor indicator of what your potential married life will be like. Story 34. Have a conversation with her. Say that you do not want to make her uncomfortable, but you would like to make your relationship more sexual. If she holds back at all, then you might need to break up because you do not want to pressure her into anything. She sounds like she could be asexual or really nervous about sex. Do you know if she has had any sexual trauma? This can really impact someone wanting to have sex for the first time. Story 35. Tell her that you expect a sexual life from a relationship, and if there is none, the relationship will not continue. There are many women who have sex on a first date, and while sex is nothing special, there is no reason to wait this long for it. Story 36. To answer the question, if I am dating, I do not mind waiting to have sex for as long as necessary. However, once we are in a relationship and sex decreases from 3 times a week to once a month, it becomes a deal breaker for me. Story 37. It is a deal breaker if I feel the connection is strong, yet there is no intimacy. I would not be able to handle months without intimacy with a woman I am attracted to on every level. Story 38. Did you unintentionally imply that you were planning to marry her? Could she be waiting for a proposal you never made? Story 39. I would say a month would be unusual. Several months would be a deal breaker unless there was a good reason, such as a medical issue or a baby. A year and a half is definitely not right. Story 40. It sounds like she either has some past trauma that is making her nervous, a belief system that leads her to believe in some kind of purity nonsense, or that she has accepted false information that aims to normalize asexuality instead of recognizing it as a psychological or personality disorder that requires help, therapy, diagnosis, or treatment. You need to determine which is the case and decide if you are okay with it. Otherwise, insist that she seeks help. If intimacy is important to you but she does not see it as an important part of your relationship, it would be better to shift the relationship into a friendship rather than continue to be disappointed. Story 41. Without a medical reason, a few weeks. Otherwise, if she does not want me, why are we together? Story 42. If my girlfriend is a virgin, I will have no problem waiting until marriage. If she has found religion, is looking to settle down, or is dating with a purpose, I will pass. I am not getting finessed like that. If I am paying a premium, it will need to be worth it. Story 43. In a new relationship, maybe a couple of months. If there is nothing meaningful by then, it is not a relationship to me. At 1.5 years, it is either religious or health reasons, or she is involved with other men and you are the safe person she comes home to afterward. Figure out which it is because it is probably not going to get better in the future. Story 44. See a red flag, you voiced it. She acknowledged it, but nothing happened. Ask her what she thinks you should do, as you are not happy. Here's the problem. It sounds like she has a mental issue. I have seen this before. It is the tip of a huge iceberg. You are not on the same page, as she has decided she is not interested and you need to live with it. That is a side effect of narcissism. She will mask so you cannot figure it out, but if she is getting everything she wants and knows you are not, yet makes no effort to fix it, she does not care about you. Another side effect of narcissism. This can go on for tens of years, and she will leave when it suits her, generally destroying your life as she does not care about it. Story 45. I never had this exact situation, but I experienced something similar. My ex-girlfriend became morbidly obese, not due to any illness, and she was no longer comfortable in her own body. She did not want to engage in sex unless she lost a significant amount of weight. I agreed to her suggestion. I was intimate with her 4 times in 12 months, only because she was interested after drinking. I ended the relationship because she was not seriously trying to lose weight. Story 46. You are not in a relationship, original poster. You are, though, in a very close friendship. For you, that aspect of it, sex, will now never be a part of what you have with her. She sees you as a really good friend, and that is about it. Take this information as you will moving forward. Story 47. 3 dates. If nothing physical happens after that, then our values are too different and we should not waste any more time. Story 48. Face it, you are not girlfriend and boyfriend. You are platonic friends and nothing more. You are not okay with that, original poster, and it is time to move on. Story 49. A week or 2. I would feel like she no longer wants me and that she is getting it somewhere else. I would talk to her first, but then I would just rip off the band-aid. We cannot go from multiple times a day 2 to 3 a week to none. That is suspicious. Unless, of course, she is dealing with something traumatic. Then I totally understand. Story 50. In the dating phase, maybe a week or 2. If there is no sexual activity, then I will not know if we are compatible, so I would leave. Sexual intimacy is important to me. Physical intimacy accounts for 60 to 70% of a relationship for me. I already have friends. Story 51. 3 dates. In a relationship, maybe a month before we started having some serious talks about it. A healthy sex life is just as important as the mental and emotional connection when a person is in a relationship. If there is no legitimate medical or personal reason, then if it bothers you, have a talk about it. Typically, though not always, after marriage and the honeymoon phase ends, the amount of sex declines. If you are not having sex now, it will not get any better later. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.